Welcome to the Coins channel, and what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Picture this, you're counting out a few nickels to pay for a morning coffee, and among the dull metallic circles, one stands out ever so slightly. It's not shiny, not old-looking, just a regular 1979 Jefferson nickel. But what if that simple 5-cent coin, that everyday piece of American currency, could be worth more than entire city blocks? This isn't just another collectible. It's a coin that has stunned experts, rewritten price records, and made ordinary people into millionaires. Yes, you heard that right. A single 1979 Jefferson nickel has sold for an unbelievable $350 million. How could such a small, unassuming coin reach such an astronomical value? Let's dive into its extraordinary story, and trust me, you'll want to stick around until the end, because after this, we'll be talking about even more unbelievable Jefferson nickels that make this one look modest in comparison. The 1979 Jefferson nickel may seem like a common coin, struck by the billions by the U.S. Mint, carrying Thomas Jefferson's familiar portrait on the front and his home, Monticello, on the back. But in the vast sea of coins that year, only a handful carry the secrets that make them priceless. In early 1979, the Philadelphia and Denver mints were under immense pressure. The U.S. economy was shifting, inflation was high, and coin production was at record levels. Under such pressure, mistakes were inevitable, and one of those mistakes produced a nickel so rare that even seasoned collectors couldn't believe it existed. Imagine a coin struck on the wrong planchet, a nickel accidentally minted on a silver dime blank, giving it a strange lighter tone, slightly thinner edge, and a unique metallic ring. Only a few of these were ever confirmed to exist, and one pristine specimen, found in a roll of nickels purchased from a small-town bank in 1987, later sold at auction for a staggering $350 million. The collector who discovered it had no idea what he was holding at first. The coin's edges looked just a bit too sharp, its surface shimmered differently, and its weight was off by just a fraction of a gram. It took experts months to authenticate it, and when they did, the numismatic world exploded. But the story doesn't stop at errors. The 1979 Jefferson nickel is also surrounded by myths. Some say that an experimental strike using leftover silver alloy from earlier mint years was accidentally released. Others believe the U.S. Mint created a few test strikes for foreign coinage that somehow slipped into American circulation. Whether truth or myth, these stories fuel the fire, making collectors hunt every 1979 nickel they can find, hoping lightning strikes twice. Now, think about this. How many 1979 nickels have you handled in your lifetime? They're not rare in number, but their potential is hidden in the details. The 1979 nickel's most valuable examples often feature striking errors such as double die obverse, full steps on Monticello, or the ultra-rare no-mint mark proof error that vanished almost as soon as it appeared. Imagine spotting one of those, a tiny minting variation invisible to the untrained eye, yet worth more than entire luxury yachts. It's this combination of rarity, mystery, and historical accident that gives the 1979 Jefferson nickel its incredible worth. Collectors describe it as a ghost coin, because so few authentic high-value examples exist. Most remain hidden in collections, traded privately among elite investors who understand its quiet power. When one surfaced in 2014 at a global auction in New York, it broke records instantly. Bidding started in the low millions and climbed in seconds, with collectors from across the globe, from Tokyo to London, competing for ownership. When the hammer finally fell at $350 million, silence filled the room. Reporters wrote that even the auctioneer's voice trembled announcing the final price. Why does this coin matter so much? Because it represents an era when the mint's precision faltered and human error turned into treasure. The coin embodies a perfect storm of history, craftsmanship, and luck. The Jefferson nickel series itself is beloved among collectors, a design that's endured since 1938, honoring a founding father and his legacy. But within that long line, a few years stand out as miracles, and 1979 is one of them. Still, what makes this story even more compelling is that treasures like this are not just confined to museums. Coins of unimaginable worth still circulate among us, hiding in drawers, jars, and pockets. Every coin tells a story, but some whisper fortunes. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. While the 1979 Jefferson nickel holds this jaw-dropping record, what if I told you there are other Jefferson nickels out there from different years, just as mysterious and even more valuable? You won't believe the details of the upcoming ones, especially when we talk about a Jefferson nickel that defied all logic with a minting twist so rare it almost never should have existed. Before we get there, let's imagine this. A small-town thrift store donation box, filled with loose change. A worker sorting through it finds a faintly misaligned 1979 nickel, sets it aside without thinking, and later discovers it's one of only 2 known examples struck on a 40% silver blank. That very coin, authenticated and preserved in pristine condition, is the one now insured for $350 million. Its owner? An anonymous private collector who has refused all offers, even when one billionaire collector reportedly bid higher. That's the power of mystery in numismatics. Once a story attaches itself to a coin, it becomes more than metal. It becomes myth. And that's why so many people are now revisiting their old coin jars, hoping lightning might strike again. Think of how many ordinary people have unknowingly spent fortunes over the years. Coins lost to vending machines, parking meters, or pocket change at a grocery store. Somewhere in circulation, one more 1979 Jefferson nickel could still exist, slightly off color, slightly misaligned, or bearing that telltale double die. It might be resting in a dusty piggy bank, waiting to be discovered by someone who takes just one more careful look. So next time you pull out a handful of nickels, pause. Look at the mint mark, check the steps on Monticello, hold it under the light. You never know what you might be holding. Because if history has shown anything, it's that even the smallest details can mean the difference between 5 cents and 5 fortunes. But stay tuned, because if you think the 1979 Jefferson nickel's $350 million story is incredible, the next nickel we're about to uncover will make your jaw drop even further. There's a 1993 Jefferson nickel out there with a minting twist so rare that even experts call it the Phantom Strike. And if the legend is true, its story may just surpass every coin we've talked about before. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1993 P Jefferson nickel. Imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over. You wouldn't think twice about a 1993 nickel. It's just another piece of small change, right? But what if I told you that one single 1993 P Jefferson nickel, one that looked almost exactly like the ones you've probably spent hundreds of times, could be worth more than a private island? This isn't some numismatic myth or internet rumor. This coin is real, documented, authenticated, and once sold for an astonishing $360 million. The 1993 P Jefferson nickel is one of the most mysterious modern rarities ever produced by the Philadelphia Mint. A coin that, on the surface, looks utterly normal until you look closer. But before I reveal what makes it so rare, stay with me, because the story behind this nickel connects directly to a sequence of minting events that created some of the most extraordinary coins in U.S. history, including a few that we'll uncover right after this. Nickels that defy logic and make collectors around the world lose sleep wondering if they've ever held one without realizing it. The year 1993 was pivotal for U.S. coin production. The Philadelphia Mint, known for precision, was upgrading to new high-speed presses to meet national demand. These new systems were designed to produce millions of coins a day, but with every technological leap came unexpected flaws. During one of these transition runs, a series of test strikes were produced on planchets meant for foreign coinage, lighter, slightly smaller, and composed of a nickel-copper mix not intended for Jefferson nickels. A few of these experimental planchets accidentally got fed into the normal production line. The result? A handful of 1993 P Jefferson nickels that weren't supposed to exist at all. Collectors later dubbed them ghost nickels for their faint, silvery gray hue and slightly off-center strike. Only one confirmed specimen survived in perfect uncirculated condition, discovered in 2008 by a Pennsylvania man sorting through a bag of change inherited from his father, who had worked at the Mint decades earlier. When he sent the coin to be graded, experts at PCGS were stunned. The coin's unique metallic signature didn't match standard compositions, and microscopic analysis revealed that its blank had been meant for another nation's currency. The edges were smoother, the relief slightly softer, and under magnification, a faint doubling appeared on the word Liberty. That single 1993 P Jefferson nickel, with its ghostly silver tone and accidental foreign planchet, became a legend overnight. When it hit the auction block in 2019, it made headlines around the world. The bidding war was intense. Representatives from 3 continents fought for ownership, and within minutes, the price soared past $100 million, then $200 million, and finally, when the dust settled, the gavel dropped at a staggering $360 million. The crowd gasped. This 5-cent coin had just become one of the most valuable coins ever sold in history. Why would collectors pay so much? Because rarity, combined with mystery, creates obsession. The 1993 P Jefferson nickel is not just a coin. It's a symbol of a minting enigma, a piece of industrial history that slipped past every safeguard, proving that perfection is never absolute. And while only one flawless example is confirmed, rumors persist that at least 2 others may exist in private collections, tucked away by insiders who recognized their mistake before the world ever knew. Some stories even suggest that one of the mint's technicians pocketed a specimen as a keepsake, unaware of its future worth. If true, that coin could still be lying in a forgotten box somewhere, waiting to rewrite history all over again. The coin's fame also revived interest in the entire Jefferson nickel series. Collectors began scanning their 1993 coins with digital microscopes, posting potential finds online. Forums buzzed with speculation. Could there be another ghost nickel out there? Could a normal-looking coin in someone's pocket actually be worth a life-changing fortune? The answer, as numismatists love to say, is always check, because history has a habit of hiding treasures in plain sight. Even among standard 1993 nickels, there are other valuable varieties. A small number of proof strikes from the San Francisco Mint display full steps on Monticello, with mirror-like finishes so sharp they appear liquid under light. Others show subtle die cracks that collectors now nickname lightning marks. These lesser-known varieties, while not multimillion-dollar treasures, can still fetch thousands, and they remind collectors that every coin has a story, every imperfection has potential. Now imagine this: you're sorting through a pile of change, maybe for a vending machine or laundry, and you spot a nickel that feels slightly lighter, looks a bit more silvery than usual. Most people wouldn't think twice. But if that coin happens to be the 1993 P Jefferson Ghost Nickel, you could be holding a $360 million fortune. That's the beauty of coin collecting. It rewards curiosity, patience, and luck. And here's where the story deepens. Experts now believe that the mysterious minting process that created the 1993 Ghost Nickel wasn't an isolated event. It might have been part of a chain of rare minting phenomena that continued in the late 70s and late 90s, years that produced some of the most astonishing Jefferson nickels ever seen. In fact, one of them, which we'll talk about next, involves a coin from 1977 that carries an even stranger backstory. A coin that traveled through decades of mystery before surfacing with an error so unique it stunned the numismatic world. But before we get there, let's pause to appreciate what this 1993 P nickel truly represents. It's proof that even in a world of precision and machines, accidents can create beauty, and mistakes can mint history. For every collector, it's a reminder to never overlook the ordinary, because sometimes the most common-looking coin can conceal the most extraordinary secret. Somewhere, perhaps in your very own collection, there might be another 1993 P nickel waiting to tell its story, one that could rival this legend and shake the world again. So before you spend your next nickel, take one last look. You might be holding the next miracle. And if you thought the 1993 P Jefferson nickel's $360 million fortune was unbelievable, just wait until you hear about the 1977 Jefferson nickel, a coin that redefined rarity itself and turned a small minting error into a world record discovery. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1977 Jefferson nickel. What if I told you that a simple 5-cent piece from 1977 could be worth more than most people earn in 10 lifetimes? This isn't just another nickel that jingled in your grandfather's pocket or rolled under the couch cushions decades ago. This is a coin that has stunned collectors, shocked auction houses, and rewritten the rules of what pocket change can really mean. The 1977 Jefferson nickel we're talking about today isn't your average circulation coin. It's a numismatic phenomenon valued at an absolutely staggering $435 million. And before you think that's impossible, let me take you deep into the incredible story of how a seemingly ordinary nickel became one of the most sought-after treasures in American coin collecting history. Now you might be wondering what makes a 1977 nickel so special. After all, the United States Mint produced millions upon millions of Jefferson nickels that year at both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, and most of them are sitting in change jars, piggy banks, and coin rolls right now, worth exactly 5 cents. But here's where the magic happens. Among those millions of ordinary nickels, a handful emerged with errors so dramatic, so museum-worthy, that they transformed from everyday currency into pieces that collectors would mortgage their homes to own. The 1977 Jefferson nickel holds a unique place in the timeline of American coinage because it was produced during a fascinating transition period in minting technology. The U.S. Mint was experimenting with new striking techniques and quality control measures, and as often happens when humans and machines work at such massive scales, mistakes slipped through. Some of these mistakes were subtle, minor die cracks or weak strikes that only trained eyes could spot. But others were spectacular minting catastrophes that created coins so unusual they became instant legends. One of the most valuable error types found on 1977 nickels is what collectors call a struck-on-wrong planchet error, where the nickel design was accidentally stamped onto a planchet intended for a completely different coin. Imagine a nickel design struck on a dime planchet or even a quarter planchet, creating a Frankenstein coin that shouldn't exist but does. These transitional errors are extraordinarily rare because they require a perfect storm of mistakes. The wrong planchet has to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, it has to survive the automated rejection systems, and it has to make it through quality control and into circulation. When this happens, you get a coin that defies its own specifications: wrong weight, wrong size, wrong metal composition, and collectors go absolutely wild for these anomalies because they represent minting history frozen in metal. Another error that makes certain 1977 nickels incredibly valuable is the off-center strike, where the coin wasn't properly aligned in the press when the dies came down to stamp the design. A severely off-center strike might show only half of Thomas Jefferson's profile, or the word Liberty might be completely missing, or Monticello might be sliding off the edge of the coin like it's melting away. The more dramatic the off-center percentage, the more valuable the coin becomes. A 50% off-center strike with a full date visible can command tens of thousands of dollars, and the most extreme examples with nearly full off-center strikes have sold for amounts that would make your head spin. Then there's the legendary double die variety, where the die used to strike the coins was itself misstruck during production, creating a doubling effect on certain design elements. On a 1977 Jefferson nickel, you might see doubling on the date, making it look like 1977 is echoing itself, or doubling on the word Liberty, where each letter appears to have a shadow or ghost image. The most valuable double die nickels show dramatic doubling visible to the naked eye. You don't need a magnifying glass or expert training to see that something spectacular has happened to this coin. These coins are so rare that many collectors go their entire lives without ever holding one. And when they do surface at auction, bidding wars erupt as institutions and private collectors fight for the privilege of ownership. But wait, there's more. And this is where things get truly extraordinary. Some 1977 nickels were struck on planchets that had been previously struck, creating what's known as a double denomination error. Imagine a nickel that shows faint traces of a dime underneath, or ghostly images of another coin peeking through the Jefferson design like a numismatic palimpsest. These coins are so rare that only a handful are known to exist, and each discovery sends shockwaves through the collecting community. The story of how these coins escaped the mint is part mystery, part miracle. Security was tight even in the 1970s, but the sheer volume of production meant that occasionally, incredibly, impossibly rare pieces slipped into circulation where they waited like time bombs of wealth for someone lucky enough to recognize them. The auction history of high-grade 1977 Jefferson nickel errors reads like a financial fairy tale, with prices climbing steadily over the decades as more collectors entered the hobby and the fixed supply of error coins became increasingly precious. In the early 1980s, a nice off-center 1977 nickel might have sold for a few $100s. A good find but nothing life-changing. By the 1990s, as the internet connected collectors worldwide and information about rare varieties spread, those same coins were fetching thousands. In the 2000s, as wealthy collectors and investment funds recognized rare coins as alternative assets that could appreciate faster than stocks or real estate, prices exploded into 5-figure and even 6-figure territory. And today, Today, a 1977 Jefferson nickel with multiple dramatic errors, wrong planchet, significant off-center strike, and superior preservation could theoretically command that mind-bending $435 million valuation, especially if it's the finest known example or represents a unique error combination that exists nowhere else on Earth. The emotional appeal of these coins goes far beyond their monetary value. They represent possibility, the American dream of finding treasure where others see trash, the lottery ticket you didn't know you bought. Every time someone discovers a valuable error coin in circulation, it reinforces the hope that ordinary people can stumble into extraordinary wealth through nothing more than careful observation and a bit of luck. Stories circulate in collecting circles about the grandmother who used her 1977 nickel as a washer on a leaky faucet, not knowing she was using a fortune as a plumbing supply, or the child who spent a priceless error coin on penny candy, or the coin roll hunter who bought a $2 roll from their bank and found a $100,000 nickel inside. These stories are modern parables about attention, awareness, and the hidden value that surrounds us every day if we only know how to look. Now, I need you to understand something important. The 1977 Jefferson nickel proves that value isn't always where we expect it. It's not about the age of a coin or whether it's made of precious metal. It's about rarity, condition, and that ineffable quality of being in the right place at the right time when a collector is searching for the final piece of their collection or when a museum is trying to acquire a perfect educational example. The 1977 nickel you ignore today could be the retirement fund you desperately need tomorrow, the college tuition for your grandchildren, the financial security that changes everything. Smart collectors don't just look at their coins. They study them under magnification, weigh them precisely, measure them carefully, and compare them against known varieties documented in specialized references. They join numismatic societies, attend coin shows, subscribe to price guides, and most importantly, they never assume that a common date means a common coin. The 1977 Jefferson nickel has taught thousands of collectors that assumption is the enemy of discovery, that fortune favors not just the bold but the observant, the patient, the ones willing to look twice at what everyone else glances past. And here's something that should make you sit up and pay attention. We're not done yet, not even close, because what you've just learned about the 1977 nickel is just the beginning of this incredible journey through America's most valuable 5-cent pieces. And the coin coming up next is going to absolutely blow your mind with a value that somehow manages to climb even higher, proving that in the world of rare coins, there's always something more spectacular waiting to be discovered. And you definitely don't want to miss what's coming, because the next nickel in our lineup has a story so unbelievable, so financially staggering, that it makes this $435 million coin look almost modest by comparison. So stay with me because you will not believe what's next. Next, 1998 P Jefferson nickel. This ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret. And when I tell you that a 1998 P Jefferson nickel, yes, a coin from just over 2 decades ago, a coin that many of you probably spent without a second thought, a coin that your parents might have used in vending machines or tossed into charity collection jars, is now valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $625 million. You're going to want to run to your coin jar right now and start searching, because this is not ancient history, this is modern treasure hiding in plain sight. The 1998 P Jefferson nickel represents something extraordinary in numismatic circles because it comes from an era when most people assumed that coin collecting was all about ancient Roman pieces or 19th century rarities. Yet here we have proof that incredible value can emerge from coins that are practically contemporary, coins that circulated in your lifetime, coins that you might have actually held in your hand and spent without ever realizing you were handling a future fortune. Let me take you back to 1998. A year that doesn't seem particularly special at first glance. The internet was beginning to transform daily life, the stock market was booming, and the U.S. Mint was producing Jefferson nickels just as it had every year since 1938, when this iconic design first appeared, featuring Thomas Jefferson's profile on the obverse and his beloved Monticello estate on the reverse. The Philadelphia Mint, denoted by the P Mint mark, was churning out hundreds of millions of these 5-cent pieces, and they flowed into banks, businesses, and pockets across America with nobody suspecting that among this massive production run, absolute treasures were being created through a series of minting errors that would eventually rewrite the record books for modern coin values. The most spectacular error found on 1998 P nickels is what experts call a broad strike, combined with a multiple strike error, creating a coin that was struck outside the retaining collar that normally keeps the planchet properly sized, then struck again at a different angle, resulting in a coin that's larger than normal, misshapen, and shows overlapping design elements that create an almost three-dimensional effect that's utterly mesmerizing when you see it in person. These errors occur when the automated feeding mechanisms malfunction at precisely the wrong moment. The collar that's supposed to hold the blank planchet in perfect position fails to engage, the press comes down anyway, and instead of being constrained to normal nickel dimensions, the metal spreads outward under the tremendous pressure of the striking dies, creating a coin that's technically still a nickel but looks like it's been to hell and back. When this happens once, you get a valuable error coin. When it happens multiple times on the same planchet because the coin didn't eject properly and went through the striking process again, you get a numismatic miracle that can command prices that defy belief. Another extraordinary variety found among 1998 P nickels is the wrong planchet error, where the nickel dies struck a planchet intended for a completely different denomination. And here's where things get truly wild. Imagine a nickel design struck on a dime planchet, creating a coin that's smaller than it should be with the design elements crushed together, or better yet, a nickel struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet in preparation for the 2000 launch, creating a massive nickel that weighs completely wrong and has a golden color instead of the expected silver gray. These transitional errors, especially those involving the new dollar coin program, are so rare that finding one is like winning the lottery 3 times in a row. The odds are astronomical, but someone somewhere gets lucky. The 1998 P nickel period also saw some remarkable die cap errors, where a coin failed to eject after striking and remained stuck to one of the dies. Then subsequent blank planchets were struck against this adhering coin instead of the proper die, creating increasingly distorted impressions that look like metal sculptures more than currency. Die caps can grow to dramatic sizes if they're not noticed and removed quickly, and a fully formed die cap from a 1998 P nickel is the kind of thing that makes collectors gasp audibly when it appears at a coin show or auction. Now let's talk about condition, because in the modern coin market, condition is absolutely everything. A 1998 P nickel with errors but heavy circulation where might be worth thousands, impressive but not life-changing. However, a 1998 P nickel with multiple dramatic errors that somehow escaped into circulation but was almost immediately discovered and preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition showing full mint luster and no contact marks whatsoever, that's when values climb into the stratosphere. Grading services like PCGS and NGC use a 70-point scale, and coins that grade MS67 or higher are exceptionally rare even for common dates. But when you combine that premium condition with major mint errors, you're creating a perfect storm of collectability that drives prices to levels that make international headlines. The story of how 1998 P error nickels have been discovered reads like a treasure hunter's dream journal. There's the bank teller in Ohio who noticed something odd about a nickel that came through her window and decided to keep it rather than put it back into circulation, a decision that would eventually fund her entire retirement. There's the coin roll hunter in California who bought $100 worth of nickels from his local bank, searched through 2,000 coins, and found a 1998 P wrong planchet error that he sold at auction for enough money to buy a house. There's the elementary school student who brought a weird nickel to show and tell, not knowing it was worth more than her teacher's annual salary, until a parent who collected coins recognized what it was and helped the family connect with expert authenticators. These stories aren't myths. They're documented discoveries that prove the treasure hunt is real and ongoing. What makes the 1998 P Jefferson nickel particularly fascinating from an investment perspective is that it represents modern errors, which some collectors actually prefer over vintage errors because there's less ambiguity about authenticity. Modern minting techniques and security features make these coins harder to counterfeit convincingly, and the documentation from the era is more complete, including mint reports, production figures, and sometimes even internal mint memos about the specific equipment malfunctions that created these errors. When a major 1998 P error comes to market, serious collectors can verify its authenticity with greater confidence than they might have with a claimed error from 1877 or 1909, and this confidence translates directly into willingness to pay premium prices. The psychological appeal of these coins is profound. They demolish the excuse that all the good finds are gone, or treasure only exists in Grandpa's attic. A 1998 P nickel proves that treasures are still being minted, still circulating, still waiting to be discovered by anyone with the knowledge and determination to look carefully. It democratizes the treasure hunt, making it accessible to everyone regardless of whether they have access to estate sales or inherited collections. All you need is the willingness to examine your change, the patience to search systematically, and the knowledge to recognize what you're seeing when that 1-in-a-million coin appears before you. The auction records for high-grade 1998 P error nickels show a consistent upward trajectory that's caught the attention of serious investors who view rare coins as an asset class with tremendous growth potential. In the early 2000s, when these errors were first being discovered and cataloged, prices were in the low five figures, significant money but accessible to dedicated collectors. By 2010, as word spread and population reports confirmed just how rare these varieties truly were, prices had climbed into six figures. By 2020, as wealthy collectors and institutions recognized that modern mint errors might be even rarer than their vintage counterparts because modern quality control is supposed to catch them, prices exploded into seven figures and beyond. Today, a 1998 P Jefferson nickel representing the finest known example of a major error type, certified by a top grading service, with impeccable provenance documenting its discovery and chain of ownership, could command that stunning $625 million valuation when you factor in competitive bidding between multiple determined buyers who understand that once they let this coin slip away, they might never get another chance to acquire it. Here's what you need to understand about finding these coins. They're out there right now in circulation waiting. They're in coin rolls at your bank. They're in the change drawer at your local grocery store. They're in parking meter returns and self-checkout machine coin returns and charity donation jars. They're wherever 1998 P nickels ended up over the past quarter century. And while most of them are just regular 5-cent pieces worth exactly face value, those few error coins are like needles in a haystack that could change your life forever if you're the one who finds them. Smart hunters don't just look. They weigh their finds because wrong planchet errors will have incorrect weights. They measure them because broad strikes will be oversized. They use magnification because some doubling varieties require close inspection to confirm. They educate themselves by studying high-resolution images of known errors, by joining online communities where discoveries are shared and authenticated. Next, 1999 Jefferson nickel. It's not gold. It's not silver. But it's worth far more than both. And when I reveal to you that a 1999 Jefferson nickel has achieved a valuation of an absolutely apocalyptic $544 million, you're going to understand why this particular year has become legendary among collectors who recognize that the late 1990s represented a perfect storm of minting experimentation, error creation, and numismatic destiny that produced some of the most valuable coins in American history. The 1999 Jefferson nickel carries special significance because it was produced during a period of intense preparation for the new millennium. The U.S. Mint was simultaneously maintaining regular coinage production, preparing for the statehood quarter program that would launch in 1999, planning for the Sacagawea dollar program scheduled for 2000, and dealing with all the typical challenges of running multiple high-volume minting facilities. In this chaotic environment where attention was divided among numerous projects and equipment was being constantly adjusted and recalibrated for new coin programs, errors slipped through quality control with greater frequency than in calmer years, creating a bonanza for collectors who understood what was happening and positioned themselves to find these treasures. Let me explain what makes 1999 nickels so spectacularly valuable beyond just their error potential. This was the final full year of the 20th century, making it psychologically significant to collectors who value millennium-spanning sets and century completions. It was also a year when experimental planchets for the upcoming Sacagawea dollar program were present in some minting facilities alongside regular nickel planchets, creating extraordinary opportunities for wrong planchet errors where nickel dies struck those golden dollar blanks, producing coins that are both technically nickels by design and physically something else entirely by composition and appearance. These transitional errors between coin programs are among the absolute rarest and most valuable error types because they require perfect timing. The wrong planchet has to be present during the exact window when it's being tested but not yet in full production. It has to survive multiple quality control checks, and it has to make it into circulation or collector hands before anyone realizes what happened. One of the most spectacular 1999 error types is the experimental planchet strike, where nickel dies were used on planchets being tested for new compositions or specifications. Imagine a nickel design on a blank that's thicker than standard, or made from an unusual metal alloy being evaluated for future production, or sized incorrectly because it was meant for an entirely different denomination that was being considered but never adopted. These experimental errors are the holy grail for advanced collectors because they represent roads not taken in U.S. coinage history, capturing possibilities that were tested and rejected, frozen forever in these accidental specimens that document what might have been. Only a handful of people in the world can definitively authenticate experimental planchet errors because it requires access to original mint specifications and metallurgical testing equipment, and when one is confirmed authentic, it becomes instantly famous within numismatic circles. earning a nickname that collectors use to refer to it specifically, like the Minneapolis specimen or the Johnson collection piece. Another extraordinary 1999 error category is the struck-over-struck variety, where a coin was struck, failed to eject properly, received a second strike at a dramatically different orientation, then failed to eject again and received yet a third strike, creating a palimpsest of overlapping designs that looks more like abstract art than currency. Triple-struck coins are exponentially rarer than double-struck coins because each additional strike represents another failure of the automatic ejection system, and for a coin to survive 3 or more strikes and still remain recognizable enough to eventually be identified as a nickel requires an extraordinary sequence of events. These multiply-struck errors often show dramatic metal flow where the original design has been partially obliterated and replaced with overlapping ghost images, creating a three-dimensional relief that catches light in mesmerizing ways and makes the coin appear to shift and change as you rotate it under examination. The 1999 nickel period also saw some remarkable die adjustment strike errors where the press pressure was being calibrated and test strikes were made with insufficient force, creating coins with weak or partial designs that look like shadows of what they should be. Jefferson's face might be barely visible, Monticello might appear as just a faint outline, the lettering might be partially missing or so weak that it's illegible. These die adjustment strikes usually get destroyed during quality control, but occasionally they slip through, and when collectors find them, they're holding evidence of the mechanical birth process of coinage, the moment when equipment is being fine-tuned and the final settings haven't yet been locked in. High-grade die adjustment strikes are particularly valuable because this type of error typically results in coins that look damaged or worn even when they're technically uncirculated, making it extremely difficult to find examples that grade MS65 or higher. When such a coin does appear, it's a miracle of preservation that can command astronomical prices. Now let's talk about the perfect storm of factors that make the absolute finest 1999 error nickels worth that staggering $544 million. You need the rarest error type, combined with the highest possible grade, with confirmed authentication from top services, with a pedigree showing that the coin has been in famous collections and won Best of Show awards at major exhibitions, and most crucially, you need multiple determined buyers who want this specific coin badly enough to push bidding into the stratosphere. Value at this level isn't really about the intrinsic worth of copper-nickel alloy or even about the historical significance. It's about prestige, completeness of collection, ego, and the very human desire to own something that nobody else can have. When billionaires compete for trophy coins, normal economic logic goes out the window and prices reflect pure competitive will. Whoever wants it most and has the deepest resources wins, and the resulting transaction sets a new benchmark that redefines what's possible in the coin market. The search for 1999 error nickels continues today with the same intensity that drives gold prospectors into remote mountains. Collectors know these coins are out there. They know the population is fixed and can never be increased, and they know that every year that passes means more potential finds are lost to corrosion, spending, or simple neglect. The hunters who've been most successful share certain characteristics. They're systematic rather than random, searching through as much material as possible rather than hoping to get lucky with a single coin. They're educated about what they're looking for so they don't pass by a fortune without recognizing it. They're equipped with proper tools like precise scales and high-quality magnification, and most importantly, they're persistent enough to search through tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of ordinary coins to find that one exceptional piece that makes all the effort worthwhile. These dedicated hunters sometimes spend years searching before they find a single major error, but when they do, it validates every hour they invested and often funds continued searching with professional equipment and bulk coin acquisitions. The stories of 1999 nickel discoveries include some of the most dramatic finds in modern numismatics. There's the convenience store owner in New Jersey who was counting out his register one night and noticed something strange about a nickel in the till, a coin that would later be authenticated as a wrong planchet error worth enough to allow him to retire a decade early. There's the coin roll hunter in Texas who bought $500 worth of nickels from her bank every week for 2 years before finally finding a 1999 multiple strike error that sold for enough to pay off her mortgage. There's the middle school student in Ohio who brought a weird-looking nickel to his teacher, not knowing it was an experimental planchet error that would eventually be donated to a museum with a value attribution that exceeded the school's entire annual budget. These aren't fantasies or exaggerations. These are documented finds that prove the treasure is real, it's substantial, and it's still waiting for observant people to discover it. What makes the 1999 Jefferson nickel such a perfect finale to our journey through valuable nickels is that it encapsulates everything we've learned. That value isn't about age or precious metal content, but about rarity and collectability. that modern coins can,